Hi, my name is Abby Hunter, and I'm a part of a project to bring light to the creative community that we have here in our very own Lancaster County. And today with me I have Dianne Mahaffee. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Dianne, and how you became an artist.
Okay, I am an art professor at USC Lancaster, and I've been teaching there for 22 years, and I've taught in the public school. I started out as a regular classroom teacher and taught as a regular classroom teacher for 21 years, and then went back to school, back to Winthrop, got my master's degree in art education, and just went full-time with it, teaching art full-time and practicing with my art work and full-time as well.
And how would you say living in Lancaster has affected your life as an artist?
Well, for me, living in Lancaster has been great because it's a small community. I like that. People here are very interested in art, and they enjoy art, either making art or just appreciating art, buying art. But what's really been great is when I was as a young adult, we had a very active art league, and every summer they would Diane Gardner and Janelle Spiegel and Shirley Hunter would help them, and they would write some grants to get very well-known watercolor artists to come to Lancaster County to teach those who were interested. And at that time, and I know it went on for maybe 20 years, almost every art teacher in Lancaster County signed up for those summertime art workshops with watercolor, and we had wonderful artists to come in like Margaret Hoybach and Jeannie Wilder and Patricia Lusk, and just so many. I mean, the list is just endless. It was wonderful. These big time internationally known watercolor artists coming to Lancaster County to teach those who were interested. So that's what I love so much about Lancaster County and being here as an artist.
You are a woman of many mediums, but what would you say is your favorite?
Well, let's narrow it down to two. Would that be okay?
Yes.
All right. I would have to narrow. I love so many different watercolor media, and I dabble in a lot of them. But the two that I'm very serious about would, of course, be watercolor and clay. And the reason why I have leaned toward those two probably is because they are so different, but yet so much alike in a lot of ways. Clay is very opaque, and of course it's 3D. Watercolor is very transparent, and it's 2D. But then they're alike in the way that you have to do some really serious problem solving when you're creating the piece that you want. And you have to work with the media, whether it's watercolor. You can't treat it like it's acrylic or oil or anything. You have to use the water, and you really think about the shadows and the lights, and you're saving the white of your paper, and you're thinking about multiple things at one time while you're creating the painting. And then with clay, you've got the problem solving because you've got other things on your mind, like the drying. Is it still too sticky and wet to do this, or is it getting too dry to do that? And then not only the creation of the clay, but then there's a whole bigger world of the firing technique and the glazed surfaces. So by using those two as my primary two favorite media, it just keeps me busy all the time. So I love that.
And where would you say you get the inspiration for your work from?
The inspiration for my work, I would have to say, comes from the traveling that I do. Because a couple months ago, I went to Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands, and of course, I took my paints, and I was with 14 other artists, painters as well, from all over the world. And it was a small enough group that we were able to get into some areas that are just wonderful, that not many people would go to unless they had a tour guide that knew about them and could take us there. So of course we painted, the inspiration was everywhere. Everything was crying out, paint me, paint me. And I did 10 paintings while I was there, and started it and did most of them on location, finished them up in the haciendas that we stayed in the evenings and at night. But after I get back from a trip, as well as with this trip, then I seem to want to continue to paint for months and months from my photographs that I've taken. So it was the same way with the other area, China and France and Italy and Costa Rica and just some other places that I've been. I'll be inspired for an enormous amount of time after I get back.
Yeah. And you said that you were an art teacher. What would you say that teaching art has taught you?
Well, as an art teacher, what I've learned is probably how to really break things down to the bare minimum of starting a project or teaching a technique. Maybe I have to now think about just pretend at the beginning of a course that no one knows anything at all,
Mm-hmm.
and so that I'm not talking above people's heads that are completely new to the watercolor technique or the lesson. So I think about how to really bring it down and then build upon that, and I don't want to leave gaps in the art learning world, and I want to fill in all those areas as I teach. I've learned patience, because some people need directions more than once, or they need to have a demonstration more than once. So I've learned patience because everybody learns differently, and I will maybe answer a student's question one way, and then maybe somebody else needs me to repeat that and show it a little bit in a different light. And so I'm thinking more as a teacher about the student, and I'm watching a lot, and I'm observing how they're painting and if I see they're using the wrong technique, I don't let them continue to practice wrong techniques. So I'll stop them, but I want to be gentle and kind and never ugly and embarrass anybody if I'm doing critiques, because I want everybody to learn from the critiques.
Yeah. And we've arrived at our last question,
Okay.
which people have the most trouble with. But what would you say being creative means to you?
Well, for me, being creative means it's a type of freedom. It's the freedom to explore and experiment without feeling threatened or afraid that you're going to fail.
That's a really good
kind of
definition.
sum it up.
Well, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you so much, Ed.